what advice do you have for people
Yeah.
like me who are in the position where they're behind the scenes? A lot of our people have very small, solopreneur, small business clients who they're
Sure.
doing their first hire. Their first hire is usually a unicorn, somebody who is doing everything and implementing
Hmm.
everything. And so they're not this deep Instagram strategist, but yet, we understand the sales funnels and we understand copywriting and all of that. Like, what kind of advice do you have for someone behind the scenes to help their client online, on Instagram, specifically?
Yeah, definitely. So there's two things that we teach our students inside of Follower to Fan Society that are really important for your own business, but they're vitally important if you're working on someone else's Instagram account. And those are creating a visual standards guide and a voice standards guide for their marketing, and in particular on Instagram. So one of the best things you can do if you're starting to work with a client and they want you to take over some marketing responsibility or want you to manage their Instagram is ask if they have those tools. And if they don't, offer to work with them to create those tools. And there's lots of free resources you can find on how to create these specific tools. We have a process we teach inside of Follower to Fan Society. And what it basically is doing at the end of the day is visual standards are saying, what does my brand look like? How does it feel when I see my brand on Instagram? So what type of photos do we use? What type of graphics do we use? What colors do we use? Do we do quotes? Do we do memes? Do we do cartoons? Do we do inspirational things? Like, what does the brand look like on the platform? Does it look polished and curated, or do we want it to look more raw and real? Like, what is important for me there? And then the voice guide is, what does the brand sound like? And this is where we get really clear on what are the brand's values. And a lot of times, if you are having this conversation with someone and they are a solopreneur or maybe they're a personal brand, they could get a little bit lost or confused because they're like, well, the brand is me. Well, yes, the brand is you. However, the brand isn't all of you. There are some boundaries there that's important for us as entrepreneurs to not just be putting everything on the internet. That's a little bit weird and I think a little bit unhealthy. So having that conversation saying, yeah, of course, like the brand is you and you are personified in this brand online, but there's probably parts of you that you don't want to share. There's probably some things we like to talk about. There's this kind of fair game list and there's an off limits list of types of content and conversations that you'll have as a personal brand. And then the way we actually build out a voice standards guide is using brand values. So there's a whole process we go through of identifying brand values. And then those values can be personified into voice traits. Well, if a brand is, let's say, a value for a brand would be optimistic, that, this brand believes that anything is possible. Well, then maybe a voice trait would be that our voice is always positive. It's always peppy. It's never negative. It's never scary. It's always exciting, right? And you can see like, oh, well, an optimistic brand would have an exciting brand voice. And then we can say, okay, this is what an exciting brand voice sounds like. This is what an exciting brand says. These are things an exciting brand would never say. And those, once you start doing that work with your client, it becomes much easier for you to take on their brand voice because you're really understanding how to write as them. And for a lot of your clients, they've probably never even thought of this before because they're just writing as themselves. And of course, that's what resonates the most. But when you start to dissect how they're writing and kind of come up with these voice traits, and then you can start to adapt it as your own, that's what makes all the difference. And I'm in a place now in my business, we have a marketing coordinator on our team that works in our business because, and she's running my Instagram account, and you would never know it because she's been able to adopt my brand voice so well just by looking at those key things, even getting as clear as coming up with lists of words you always use and words you never use. For example, does your brand curse or does it not curse? Like, that's a big thing, like, does your brand talk about, alcohol or not talk about alcohol? At one point I had a client I was working with and they were like, yeah, someone's running my Instagram account and they're always talking about happy hour, but I don't even drink that much. And it just feels weird to me. I was like, you need to set that boundary. You need to make that clear for them. Does your brand use colloquialisms or not? So for example, I say y'all, and stuff like that. Does your brand do that or not? Even down to the point we have in our business, what emojis my brand uses versus the emojis I don't use. Like
Give me one that you don't use, or give me an emoji you hate real quick.
Okay, so I hate the fire emoji. I don't use it. It's like really bro-y to me. I don't use it. If we're going to use a heart, we always use the gold heart or the yellow heart. Like that's the heart that we use. Like things like that. And it seems crazy to be so specific, but those are the things that create this consistent experience for followers on Instagram. So that's kind of a crash course in brand voice and visual identity. But if you can get your client nailed down, you only need a couple hours of their time and just saying like, look, I'm happy to run your Instagram, but I have to have this first or like it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And then create those guides and then go from there. And this is a really great thing that you can do is if you are struggling to create content for your clients, get access, especially if they have a program, a digital product, a coaching program, get access to that product or that program. And that is your source for content creation. So one thing that we've started doing in my business that I actually got from my mentor, James Wedmore, is that every time I am online talking or teaching about Instagram, I am creating source content for someone to pull from to create additional content. So when I'm on podcasts, when I'm on Facebook Lives, when I'm teaching in my program, when I'm doing coaching calls in my program, all of that can be transcribed and then adapted and turned into marketing content.
Yeah.
So my marketing coordinator is never running out of content. She's pulling from transcriptions from Facebook Lives. She's pulling from modules in our course, and she's creating content that way.